Hello, for my experiment, I'm going to be pickling these cucumbers. So I have 3 Persian cucumbers right here. I have some salt. I have the distilled white vinegar. In here I already have some water, a half a cup. And this is the container I'm going to put it in. I am going to combine these ingredients and then put them with the pickles in this container, seal it tight. And then I'm going to leave it in the refrigerator for several hours and come back and finish this experiment. All right, we'll see how they look tomorrow. Okay, so here we have the 3 cucumbers, a half a cup of water, a half a cup of distilled white vinegar, some salt, and sealed tight so no oxygen could get in. And I'm going to place it in the fridge. And we will see, we'll see more tomorrow how it looks. These are how the pickles look after 24 hours. They are starting to change color and look more like pickles than cucumbers. So we will check again in about 24 hours. These are the pickles after 48 hours.
It's still there. Walking. Is it?
Here we go. In my experiment, I used 3 small cucumbers, half a cup of distilled white vinegar, half a cup of water, and half a teaspoon of salt. I used a glass container with a sealed lid. While making pickles, the vinegar I used helped keep away the bad bacteria that causes the cucumbers to spoil and allowed the good bacteria, called the lactic acid bacteria, to successfully pickle the cucumbers. The lactic acid bacteria helps digest the sugars in the cucumbers, which in turn makes lactic acid. The lactic acid is helpful in containing the microbes that cause the food to go bad and completely taking away the potential for the bad bacteria to thrive by removing their food source. The lactic acid is also responsible for giving pickles a sour taste. I added the salt because it helps the lactic acid grow quicker than the other harmful microbes. I added about half a teaspoon of salt since I had a smaller container and only 3 cucumbers to pickle. Adding too little salt wouldn't help the lactic acid grow much, and adding too much salt could kill the lactic acid, so it was important to follow the recipe and add the right amount. The microbes are undergoing fermentation. By not allowing oxygen to get into the container, fermentation was able to take place. By letting oxygen in, the bad bacteria could have had a chance to thrive, which could ruin the food in this process. The temperature did change in the container as it was kept in the fridge at about 40 degrees, which I will talk more about at the end of this video. After doing some research on making pickles, I found out that the pH should decrease to below 4.6 while making the pickles due to the rapid production of lactic acid that the pickles were soaking in. I used a pH stick to check my solution after opening the pickles at the conclusion of my experiment, and the solution was indeed acidic. When I checked on the pickles after 24 hours, I noticed that there were bubbles forming towards the top of the container, which lets me know that there was carbon dioxide that had formed, and the brine had indeed been acidified during this process. I was successful in making this food. I tried a bite of the pickles, and they tasted just like pickles to me, so I'm confident in saying that this process was successful. I believe I added the perfect amount of vinegar, water, and salt to the mix. If I were to do this again, I would add more ingredients such as spices and dills, since the pickles I made were very bland. The biggest thing I would change is, if I were to do this again, to keep the pickles at room temperature during this process. As I stated earlier, I kept the pickles in the fridge at about 40 degrees. After doing some more research, I learned that fermentation works best in 70 to 77 degrees. This is the reason my pickles took almost 48 hours to make. After I checked on them after 24 hours, they still had the dark green color the cucumbers had. So I decided to wait another 24 hours because they didn't look quite ready yet, which now I realize is because I kept them in the fridge. They would have taken significantly less time if I kept them at room temperature. By being too hot or too cold, the bad microbes could grow and affect the process of fermentation by gaining an advantage over the lactic acid. However, I enjoyed this experiment and watching these cucumbers turn into pickles before my eyes. Thank you.